It's no secret that crypto needs clear regulation.
Is it a secret?
No, it is not.
While significant progress is being made, there's still a long way to go if crypto is to be adopted on a global scale. Thankfully though, a recent report tells us what crypto regulation looks like around the world. And today we'll break this report down for you in simple terms and tell you what it could mean for the markets. Stay tuned. The report we'll be summarising today is titled Global Crypto Regulation Landscape, and it was published by blockchain analytics company Elliptic. We'll leave a link to the report in the description, but we'll be covering the key points here in this video. So, the report starts with the US, where regulatory progress has been somewhat slow, thanks in no small part to Gary Gensler and co. at the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, making life difficult for the industry. Do you remember when Gary was literally teaching people about crypto?
I can sort of say I can go from US dollars to Bitcoin or XRP.
What happened, G-Dog? Who hurt you? Anyway, the latest target of the SEC has been DeFi, with Uniswap Labs and Consensus coming under fire in recent months. To be fair, while Gary often takes all of the blame, a lot of these attacks have been spearheaded by Gurbir Grewal, the SEC's Director of Enforcement, who recently departed the agency, by the way. Regardless, the SEC's targeting of crypto projects for allegedly selling unregistered securities, while also not explaining what a crypto security is, has made innovation in the US difficult. In fact, the SEC's jurisdiction is being questioned due to its unclear guidance and its aggressive stance towards crypto. Regulation is so unclear at the federal level that some states have taken matters into their own hands. For instance, New York's Department of Financial Services has taken proactive steps to implement regulations for consumer protection and stablecoin oversight. Now, this regulation is infamously stringent, but, well, it's better than nothing. That said, there has been some progress at the federal level. The biggest regulatory change in recent months has been the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, which thankfully was shortened to FIT21. Now, FIT21 was passed by the House of Representatives in May, but has yet to make it to the Senate. Still, this was a step in the right direction. And if this bill becomes law, it will provide a regulatory framework for digital assets by updating existing regulations to cater for crypto and blockchain technology. But perhaps more importantly, it would also clarify the roles of the SEC and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC. In other words, no more overreach from the SEC. Incidentally, the SEC published a statement opposing the rollout of FIT21. Can't imagine why. Now, unfortunately, the SEC has had some wins, though. In May, the House voted on a resolution to overturn the SEC's SAB 121 rule, which basically imposes strict standards on banks holding crypto. SAB 121 forces banks to declare crypto as a liability on their balance sheets, which could cause them to incur significant losses. If the resolution were passed, SAB 121 would be reversed, and the SEC would be prevented from making similar moves in the future. Sadly, though, the resolution, which was passed along bipartisan lines, was then vetoed by President Biden. However, as the report points out, quote, the SEC has shown some flexibility, suggesting potential exemptions for certain firms if they meet specific conditions to protect customer assets. More recently, the SEC seems to have taken a slightly softened stance, deciding not to pursue enforcement actions against Consensus, the company behind MetaMask and Infura, or Paxos, which issued the BUSD stablecoin in partnership with Binance. However, the report highlights that the SEC hasn't made a broader statement on stablecoins, suggesting the potential for a case-by-case review. Another key development came at the end of June when the Supreme Court voted to overturn the so-called Chevron doctrine, which has allowed regulatory bodies like the SEC to interpret and act on legislation as they see fit over the last 40 years. Needless to say, this was another big win for crypto. The report also highlights a Grayscale survey showing that 46% of voters see crypto as the future of finance. So, you'd think that crypto would be a key issue for both Republicans and Democrats, but instead it's a little one-sided. Vice President Kamala Harris has stayed almost silent, only briefly muttering the words digital assets and blockchain at a private fundraiser. Meanwhile, her rival for the presidency, Donald Trump, has embraced crypto with open arms and has also selected J.D. Vance as his vice presidential candidate.
But I'm thrilled to be here in Nashville to become the first American president ever to address a Bitcoin event anywhere in the world.
For reference, Vance is a vocal crypto supporter who has drafted legislation to improve regulations and clarify the roles of the CFTC and the SEC. You can learn more about how next month's election could impact crypto by using the link in the description. And by the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, smash that like button to give it a boost, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications. Apologies for the interruption, folks, but if you're looking to get the very best information about altcoins and become part of the most welcoming community in crypto, then we have just the place for you. The Coin Bureau Club is where you can find our unrivaled altcoin reviews. Every week we cover a different low-cap altcoin project, and these reviews are the best in the business. No one digs as deep as we do into these projects, and we share all the info we find with our members. There's tons more besides our reviews though. You'll also get access to our exclusive research feed where I and other key Coin Bureau team members share alpha, our thoughts on the market, and more in real time. You'll get to see what we all hold in our portfolios, and there's an exclusive members Discord as well. This is the place where you can chat directly with us, ask questions, and meet fellow crypto enthusiasts. The community there is the best you will find in the crypto space. Everyone is welcome, and you can talk crypto 24/7 if you so desire. There are loads of other benefits to being a Coin Bureau Club member too, so if you're interested, check out the link in the description below. And now, back to the video. Okay, the next part of the report looks at the rest of the Americas, starting with Canada, where the Canadian Securities Administrators, or CSA, and the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organisation, or CIRO, issued a statement in August. This statement reminded trading platforms to register with CIRO in order to continue serving Canadian investors. So far, 15 trading platforms are registered, including major companies like Coinbase. Elsewhere, Bolivia has revoked its ban on using crypto for trading and payments, so long as transactions are undertaken by regulated institutions. Still, this is a leap forward because Bolivia had one of the longest-standing bans on crypto in the world. Meanwhile, Brazil's central bank is planning to roll out crypto regulations before the end of 2024, with oversights on stablecoins and virtual asset service providers, or VASPs. The report notes that Brazil is looked upon as a potential crypto hub due to the size of its economy, but sadly the country has been slow to introduce regulations. As for Honduras, it has a hard ban on crypto engagement from domestic banks due to concerns about financial stability. This is nuts when you consider it literally shares a border with El Salvador, which you'll know became the first country in the world to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender back in 2021. Okay, next, the report looks at Europe, which has arguably seen the biggest regulatory developments. In the EU, the European Commission proposed the Markets in Crypto Assets Bill, or MiCA, back in 2020. MiCA passed last year and came into effect at the end of June this year. For context, MiCA is a comprehensive regulatory framework for crypto, particularly for stablecoins, that's intended to be used across the EU. Essentially, it requires stablecoin issuers to gain approval from the relevant authorities before offering tokens to users within the EU or before issuing stablecoins pegged to the euro. In July, Circle became the first stablecoin issuer to gain full approval under MiCA, setting the stage for wider adoption from other stablecoin issuers. On top of the MiCA bill, there's also the travel rule, which will come into effect for crypto service providers at the end of this year. For context, the travel rule was implemented by the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, and requires crypto companies to collect detailed information about crypto transfers. Notably, this rollout involves no minimum threshold on transactions, meaning information will be collected at every point. You can learn more about the travel rule in one of our previous videos, and the link is of course in the description. And next up, we have the UK, which already has some regulatory frameworks. Its anti-money laundering laws were amended in 2020 to include crypto companies, which must now be registered with the Financial Conduct Authority, or FCA. The UK also has its own travel rule, which came into effect last September. This requires information from VASP to VASP transactions to be reported to the FCA in order to detect any illicit activity. The FCA has also banned retail users from accessing crypto derivatives due to the risks of extreme volatility. Notably, the UK also rolled out a more boots-on-the-ground approach, giving the police the power to seize crypto assets from criminal activity. If you watched our video on which governments hold the most crypto, you'll recall that this is how the UK government came to hold over 50,000 BTC. More about that in the description. Moving on. Now, more recently, the FCA has tightened its stance on crypto advertising, but to be fair, it also released a guide on how to comply with the new rules. If only regulators everywhere did that, eh? Looking at you, Gary. But what about the rest of Europe? Well, France in particular has been proactive with crypto regulations. In 2017, the Autorité des Marchés Financiers, or AMF, amended its laws on anti-money laundering and illicit financing to include crypto exchanges. These regulations were made even stricter in 2020 in compliance with guidelines set by the FATF. Meanwhile, Italy has been working in line with the MiCA bill since 2023 with added scrutiny on crypto advertising and the introduction of a crypto-specific tax. As for Denmark, its Financial Supervisory Authority published a guide to assess the decentralization of crypto markets operating under MiCA. Notably, this is the first attempt by an EU member state to outline what true decentralization means and could provide a template to be used around the world. But, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, Hungary is likewise working in line with MiCA, but has granted authoritative powers to its central bank. This could be bad news for crypto adoption in Hungary, particularly if its central bank abuses this power to prevent crypto from offering an alternative. However, one country that's at the forefront of regulation is Switzerland. Switzerland's crypto regulation is overseen by its Financial Markets Supervisory Authority, or FINMA, and its approach has made it one of crypto's most innovation-friendly regulators. According to the report, this has attracted over 1,000 crypto businesses, including the Ethereum Foundation. Heck, if clarity is what you want, then consider that Switzerland literally has something called the Blockchain Act, a legislative framework that integrates blockchain technology into Swiss law. And this year, the Swiss Federal Council even suggested ways to provide improved tax efficiency. Bravo, Switzerland! You seem to have nailed this so far. Okay, the next part of the report looks at crypto regulations in the Middle East, starting with the UAE. Its fintech strategy, rolled out in 2021, has made the UAE a global crypto hub. Abu Dhabi has had a framework for crypto regulations since 2017, and Dubai has become a go-to destination for crypto firms from around the world. This is a part of why we moved the Coin Bureau HQ from London to Dubai, by the way. Now, Dubai also created the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority, or VARA, the first crypto-specific authority in the world. Now, the UAE takes influence from regulatory standards around the world, such as the EU's MiCA bill or the FATF's travel rule. Recent developments also include a CBDC strategy for its digital dirham and the Dubai Financial Service Authority's crypto token regime, which focuses heavily on compliance. Dubai's central bank has even approved regulation for stablecoins pegged to the AED, which can be used for payments across the UAE. These regulatory upgrades have been so substantial that the FATF has removed the UAE from its so-called grey list, which is a list of jurisdictions that need extra monitoring due to AML or illicit finance concerns. Elsewhere in the Middle East, meanwhile, Qatar rolled out its first digital asset framework, which opens the door to blockchain innovation. Notably, though, crypto trading is still banned and has been since 2018. But hopefully, this is the first step of many towards crypto acceptance. Meanwhile, Turkey, which has been on the FATF's grey list since 2021, announced plans to regulate crypto earlier this year. In May, the Turkish parliament approved a bill that creates supervision for virtual asset service providers. And this marks Turkey's first step towards FATF compliance. Over in Africa, meanwhile, Kenya has also taken steps towards FATF compliance because the Kenyan government has created a specific team to draft up crypto regulations. This is reminiscent of VARA in the UAE and could create another crypto-specific regulator. Other developments come from Seychelles, which recently implemented the Virtual Asset Service Providers Bill, which gives authority to oversee VASPs to the Seychelles Financial Services Authority. And then there's South Africa, which already has its own regulations for crypto asset service providers, or CASPs, which require that all CASPs comply with AML laws. However, South Africa doesn't have its own stablecoin regulations yet. It aims to set those out by the end of the year, however. Okay, the next part of the report takes a look at the Asia-Pacific region, starting with Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong is becoming a leading crypto hub in Asia with solid regulatory frameworks. This year, it introduced a licensing regime for virtual asset trading platforms, which requires all service providers to be licensed by Hong Kong's Securities and Futures Commission, or SFC. It also recently proposed a sandbox regulatory environment for stablecoins called Project Ensemble, set to launch early next year. In April, the SFC approved its own spot Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Now, this is significant because outside of the US, there aren't that many countries offering such products. Then there's Singapore, which is already a global fintech hub with decent crypto regulations. Singapore's robust regulatory framework provides an opportunity for crypto firms looking to set up operations there. Singapore's Payment Services Act was created in 2020 and regulates digital payments. It also covers exchanges and requires them to adhere to AML and illicit finance laws. And in August, Singapore's Parliament created the imaginatively titled Anti-Money Laundering and Other Matters Bill. Okay. Next up, we have China, which is a hot topic these days. Now, there's a misconception that crypto is completely banned in China, but, well, this isn't true. Basically, trading and mining are banned, but holding cryptos is allowed. As such, Chinese investors haven't stopped dabbling in crypto, with many of them using tools like VPNs to access the crypto market. Now, this makes it much harder for China to implement proper regulatory measures. And if you're reading through this report, by the way, you might notice that for some reason Singapore's regulations are copied over onto this page too. Keep in mind that this is a mistake because none of these regulations apply to China. South Korea, meanwhile, has robust regulations and is taking proactive steps to increase compliance with AML laws and consumer protection. To do this, an amendment was made to its Special Financial Transactions Information Act that requires crypto exchanges to register with South Korea's Financial Services Commission. These exchanges then have to provide KYC information to banks. Now, this ruling has forced some smaller exchanges to go out of business, which arguably flushes out some less credible platforms. And North Korea also gets a mention, but, well, for all the wrong reasons. And next up is Thailand, which hasn't really done much in terms of regulation. However, its own SEC has allowed Thai investors to invest in the US spot Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, so that's something, I guess. Then there's the Philippines, whose central bank is creating a path for VASPs and institutions to offer stablecoins with pre-designed regulations in place. There are also plans to pilot a Philippine peso-backed stablecoin to be used for things like remittances and DeFi liquidity. And the next part of the report looks at Australia, where regulation has been slow despite over 30% of its population holding crypto. However, there are plans to regulate stablecoins by the end of 2024, and the report notes that in Australia, crypto is considered property for tax purposes. Okay then, so what does all of this mean for the markets? Well, the answer is a bit of a mixed bag, but well, it's a bag nonetheless. Some countries, such as the UAE, have very good crypto regulations that continue to improve. These will make it easier for capital to flow into crypto. Other countries, such as Honduras, have very bad crypto regulations, which could become good in the future. As we've mentioned in our previous videos about crypto regulations, once some kind of regulation has been put down, then it can be changed. In other words, having some kind of regulation is better than having no regulation at all. As crypto adoption continues to grow, countries like Honduras will feel pressure to pass better crypto regulations, and the rails for them to do that will already be in place, so to speak. The one thing that is a bit concerning, though, is the FATF's involvement in pushing these crypto regulations. In case you haven't noticed, this unaccountable and unelected international organization has been pressuring countries to comply with its so-called recommendations. The countries that fail to comply often find themselves having a hard time interacting with the global financial system, be it formally via being put on a grey list or blacklist, or informally via the institutions that work closely with the FATF. And if you've watched any of our videos about the FATF, you'll know this is a problem, because its recommendations basically involve turning crypto into another arm of the financial system. Specifically, it involves labelling anything that doesn't involve an intermediary as high risk. Now, not sure if you've noticed, but the entire purpose of crypto is to be able to do things like move money around without an intermediary. This is precisely what the FATF is trying to stop with its recommendations, and it looks like lots of countries are falling into line. Thankfully, so far, most of crypto's peer-to-peer aspects haven't been targeted yet. So long as that doesn't happen, crypto regulations will be a net benefit to the market and the industry. The moment we start seeing regulations being applied to decentralized and disintermediated activities, though, that's when it starts to become very bad for crypto. And the scariest part is that prices would probably pump because of all the inflows. Kind of like those spot Bitcoin ETFs, which you can learn about using the link in the description. And that is all for today's video. So if you enjoyed it, give it a boost by hitting that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notifications, and why not take a second to share this video with a friend too. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next time. This is Guy, signing off.